Hey, do you guys know what a Ferrari sounds like? I bet you don't know what it really sounds like. The internet's gonna tell you. You guys ready for this? Oh yeah. Hear that Ferrari V8? 8,000 RPM. Yeah. Okay, anyway, today we're gonna talk about comparing the McLaren 600 LT with the Ferrari 488 GTB and 488 Pista. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if that's the way to say it. Anyway, stay tuned. All right, thanks for joining me, guys. Today we're going to talk about McLaren versus Ferrari, more specifically the McLaren 600 LT that's soon to be released versus the 488 GTB and 488 Pista. And if you are joining my channel for the first time, I'll just want to give you a heads up that I have a lot of other videos that are similar to this, but they're comparing the McLaren 600 LT to things from Lamborghini, Porsche. So we talked about the Lamborghini Huracan series and the two Porsche RS cars. And we've also done some videos comparing the 600 LT to McLaren 570S and the McLaren 720S. This is going to pretty much wrap up my comparisons to exotics. I think my next video is going to be more about comparing the 600 LT to budget cars like the GTR and the D06 Corvette. Anyway, let's talk about Ferrari. So Ferrari has obviously been around for a long time and very, very respected brand. I talked about, when I was doing the Lamborghini video, I talked about how 10 years ago there wasn't a lot of competition in the exotic world, and that's changed a lot, especially with McLaren joining the party. So Ferrari has also had to make a lot of changes, and I think one of those big changes is really that they have gone away from the big, huge motors that they used to be building and have gone more smaller V8s with turbos, which is, everyone's got their opinions, but I think it's actually they've done a really good job. So let's take a look at some of the specs here. I've got a spreadsheet I'm going to pull up, and it's going to compare the 600 LT on the left with two Ferrari 488 models right in the middle on the right. So for starters, you can see that the 488 GTB is priced very, very close to the 600 LT. And in fact, I think it's really the closest matchup, like direct matchup I've seen for any of the cars out there. So any of the other cars, I mean anything that we've compared to with McLaren or Lambo or Porsche. So price is very similar, horsepower is very similar. Actually, the Ferrari is just really doing a great job there on the torque. But then McLaren really beats up the GTB with the weight. They have a really similar horsepower to weight ratio. The McLaren actually ends up costing more money per horsepower, which is fine because it makes that up in weight. And look at the motors. 3.8 liter V8 twin turbo, 3.9 liter V8 twin turbo. They both have 7-speed automatic transmissions. The 600 LT has a dual clutch. The research that I saw said that the GTB had just an automatic, but let's clear that up real quick, because if you watch my Lamborghini video, I was suspicious that the Huracan 610-4 it showed online that it was just an automatic, and I was thinking that's got to be a dual clutch for how much it costs, and sure enough it was, and they had just changed it since it had been released. So let's see, we're on the 488 page right now. Let's see if it says anything about a transmission and gearbox. Dual clutch, there we go, boom, quick and easy answer. So we will change this that. They're all rear-wheel drive. Three of these vehicles. So all three of these vehicles have almost the same size motor, cylinder configuration, and turbo configuration. They all have the same speed dual clutch transmissions made by different manufacturers, but very similar. They're all rear wheel drive. You can see their 0 to 60 times are all really similar, and it takes getting into more like the 0 to 100 and the quarter mile time to show that the Pista is a faster car. But let's kind of back up again. So I mainly was talking about the 600 LT against the 488 GTB at the beginning because their prices are so similar. And then so the 488 has a decent chunk of more horsepower and a lot more torque, but it weighs more. Whereas the Pista is going to run you another $100,000. So a lot more similar to like say a 720S price wise. It's actually more expensive than 720S, but it has a whole lot more horsepower. It has about the same torque though, so it's interesting though that they're squeezing out that much more horsepower out of the same motor at Ferrari, but they're not really changing the torque very much. And then they shaved a ton of weight. Look at that. They shaved 400 pounds. And that's nuts to me. I'm pulling all this information off the internet, so I'm almost wondering if this 3,400 pounds in the GTB, I mean, is that better not be a spider weight that I found. That's a lot. That's a big difference. So anyway, the horsepower per pound is really impressive on the Pista, but you are paying a big premium on the dollars per horsepower that you so for every. So when you're talking about how much you're spending per horsepower on these vehicles, Pista is really expensive. It's almost $500 per horsepower. So even though it's a ton of horsepower, it's very expensive for that horsepower. Whereas the GTB is actually the cheapest out of the three. It's actually cheaper than the McLaren, which in my opinion makes sense because the McLaren performed better. But actually, that's an opinion of mine. Something from someone that's never driven. But let's look at the Pista. There's some weird stuff going on with the Pista. So it has, as we mentioned, 710 horsepower, 568 foot-pounds of torque, and it's lightweight. This is a formula for a very fast car, and I'm very confused at the 0 to 60 time. So I'm going to pull up a website here. So this is topspeed.com, and it shows the 0 to 60 time as 2.85 seconds. And then if you go to this website, motor1.com, they're talking about how some people in the Middle East were able to pull a 2.2 or 2.30 to 60 in a Pista. And this was back in May, whereas this, let's see, when was this article on? February. So these articles are both really old. And I think almost I think this one they said it was like a prototype. This 2.30 to 60 was on a prototype. And then got Supercar World saying that it's a 2.6. So I mean, no one is saying the same numbers anywhere. And this is, I've looked up a lot of cars lately to do these videos, and it's usually very simple. You do this Ferrari 488 Pista 0 to 60, and this is all you're getting. There's no official anything. This website, Fastest Laps, is actually usually a really good website, and they have a lot of information, and they have just nothing they tell you that the top speed in 0 to 100 kilometers per hour as 2.9, but it's very barren compared to, let's do the same thing. Let's do 488 GTB. Search is, so look at how much more information there is on performance for 488 GTB. Tons of stuff here. So this brings me to the next thing, and that is that these figures that I have on my spreadsheet for the Pista in particular, they're very speculative, especially for a car that is already in the market. How has no one really confirmed any of this? So here's the next thing for more speculation. There's a guy on fastestlaps.com who has posted more information that he's pulling from Road and Track and Motor Trend, which are very reputable. So he says that in this article titled Brutal Track Stars in Road and Track in the August issue of this year, that the Pista did a quarter mile in 10.1, which is very impressive, but makes sense for 710 horsepower and 3,000 pounds with a dual clutch 7-speed. That's very similar to a McLaren 720S. So that I'm not surprised at that figure. And then they're saying that the 0 to 60 was only 2.8, which I'm surprised. It seems a little bit on the low side for what I would have guessed. I would have thought that 2.6 would have even been on the low side. And then 0 to 100, 5.2 is actually pretty impressive. So now this is from 4 months ago that this guy Hostboy put. But Hostboy also 4 months ago posted that there was another more figures released. Oh, sorry, this was from Evo magazine, but that's not even the one I'm looking at. I'm not sure. This 0 to 60, this sounds like it must be for a different car because this one says. But right here, Motor Trend in June, here put figures up on the Pista of 0 to 60, 2.6 seconds. So they got a faster 0 to 60, which is obviously very feasible for a day, different track, different weather. They did 0 to 100 in 5.2, which was the same. And they did a quarter mile in 10.5, which is a whole lot slower. Maybe I shouldn't say a whole lot slower, but it's slower. But these numbers seem similar enough to make, so we're looking at, we've got supposedly Motor Trend's numbers, supposedly Road and Tracks numbers, and then we've got, Motor1.com, TopSpeed.com, and Supercar World. Everyone's a little bit different, but kind of at least get a picture what you're expecting, and what you're expecting is it's a pretty damn fast car. And I don't know if it's accurate to say this, but maybe that's also something. Maybe the drivers were all just, but it is, we're not talking about shifting. Could be talking about, but it's a damn fast car and it's really expensive. So here's my next thought on Ferrari. We've talked about this next topic on both Porsche and Lamborghini. So with Porsche, if you wanted their more exclusive models, which are the GT RS and the 2 RS, you have to expect to pay a large addendum sticker price. Addendum means you have to pay a large markup. So with the GT2 RS, which is the more recent car, you're expecting at least $100,000 over the MSRP price, which puts it almost, after taxes and stuff, it becomes basically a $500,000 car, twice as expensive as the McLaren 600 LT. With the GT3 RS, you're paying typically about a $60,000 over MSRP, which makes it more like a $300,000+ car. And so to me, I had my opinion on that was that they become a little bit too expensive. Now the Lamborghini prices saw were just similar to McLaren. What you expect, what the MSRP price is listed at, is what you will, not crazy addendum. But I was told by the Lamborghini dealership to expect crazy addendum Ferraris. So I have a Porsche dealership down the street from my house. We called them. I have a Lamborghini dealership about 10 miles away, and we called them. And a Ferrari dealership right down the street from that Lamborghini dealership. So I'm going to call that Ferrari dealership. This video is already long enough. I'm going to cut this right now, and I will make the phone call video separate. Anyway, if you enjoyed this information, I would appreciate you giving the thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends about these videos if they're into supercars also, and just expect for me to continue making. I try to make at least 4 videos every week, all about cars and other stuff. And I'll try to make more videos about my own cars, and even starting this week. Thanks for sticking with me, guys, and I'll see you.